Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Melanie Tana. I talk about books, movies, video games, TV shows, and lately I have been on a high fantasy kick, in particular a Wheel of Time kick. I'm on book 9, Winter's Heart, and I made a video last week about chapters 1 through 10. And I figured I would just kind of do that as I read through because everyone's been really supportive of my Wheel of Time journey. And I wanted to talk about chapters 11 through 20. So I'll do that now, and then I'll give you guys an end of the book sort of recap and my feelings on it once I finish it. This is a spoiler video. If you are interested in reading the Wheel of Time and you have not yet, I would recommend not watching this video. Go and start the Wheel of Time yourself, and if you're interested, maybe keep reading and I'll keep making videos about it. But for those of you who have read the Wheel of Time, it was interesting to hear your thoughts about book 9 and how I was saying that it's not as slow as I expected it to be. And I still feel that way. A lot of interesting things are happening. I actually quite enjoy it. It doesn't have the same momentum as the first few books, I'd say, but it's still because we've built up these characters, it's still very interesting to me, and what's going on with the world is very interesting. And side note, if you hear the wind or video game rage from another room, my apologies. Just bear with me as I am bearing with that. So I'm really growing to like the cultures of the Wheel of Time. I find that we are getting a lot in these middle chapters from as I now know, it's pronounced Seanchan. Seanchan. I want to make it feel natural, but my brain just reads Seanchan. It's not that. So, these are the people who are enslaving women who can channel. So not just Aes Sedai, but any woman they find out can channel. And that has been really cool because their whole basis for women being able to channel and controlling them is that the women who control them can also channel. And so I'm just waiting for that to fall apart. But to just kind of get into it, to go in order of what I read, be a little bit more organized, even though I might not hit all the points in these middle chapters. Obviously, big books, a lot of characters, a lot of things that I may not notice. Anyway, chapter 11 starts out with Rand and Min traveling to Camelot, and he's working with the Windfinders on their channeling. One of those young Windfinders telling Nynaeve that they want to go to the White Tower, that they want to train, that but they've got family dynamics in the way of that. And then Rand meets up with Nynaeve at the end of the chapter and basically says, hey, do you want to help me cleanse the male half of the source? And she's like, all right. And Lan is like, you might kill her doing this. There's actually, I gotta find it because you don't get a ton of Lan, obviously, in these chapters, but it's very satisfying when you do. So he speaks, and it says, Lan said quietly, quiet the way steel sliding from a scabbard was quiet. I just love that. So that just, stuff like that shows to me that Robert Jordan really cares about, like there's so much work he put into the voice and his writing style. It feels artistic. There's so much to it, and yet it's still like beautiful prose to me. With how much he had to write, you'd think he'd want to be very direct and just get to the point. And he gets to the point, but he lets things be beautiful, and he is descriptive in a very visceral way, and also knows his characters very well. And I love that little tidbit for Lan. I think it's very just important for his character, especially considering he's being protective of Nynaeve, who is both the Aes Sedai to his warder and his wife. So yeah, chapter 12 is very important for Rand and his love life. Aviendha, Elaine, and Min all go to him, and they basically say, hey, we want you to bond us as our warder, or do the warder bond in that sense. And it's very interesting because I didn't know that, like in Min's case, she doesn't channel, that she could be a part of that bond, but it seems to work out for her. And they all can get a sense of Rand in their heads, and it's interesting to see their different feelings about it. And of course, it's a very important moment for Elaine and Rand. And Min says that Elaine, after that day, will be with child, 2 children, a boy and a girl, because Min can see, like, get a sense of people's futures and sees that about them. And Min comments on it out loud to Aviendha, but keeps to herself what she sees about Aviendha, which is that she will carry 4 of Rand's children, and I think she says all at once. She gets a sense that the babies will be healthy, but that worries me for Aviendha. Like, that's a lot of kids to have, even in the day of modern medicine, and even with how much I trust the wise ones of the Aiel, and how much I trust women who can heal and weave and perform great miracles. Like, I still don't know how the survival rate regarding quadruplets is in this world. So that makes me very nervous, because I love Aviendha, and I'm curious to see what the subtlety of that is. And I find it important that Min didn't share this with Aviendha. She just saw it and said, people don't always like to know everything about them that she sees about them, so she keeps it to herself. Chapter 13 was interesting. I need to read it again. Chapter 13 is kind of split up between some Aes Sedai conversations with Ketswain. I think that's how you say her name. I'm not going to get every name right, but I'm going to try. And then with some of the Forsaken / Chosen, who are all doing their own conspiring, because that's what half the Wheel of Time is everyone conspiring against each other. But Ketswain is a very interesting character to me. The fact that she is an Aes Sedai who looks aged, like, in the sense that her hair is silver, even though she is still very beautiful and timeless. I think it's interesting. Like, she has a wisdom about her and a sternness about her that I really like. I think you can trust her, but I don't really know. You gotta be careful with everyone, but I feel like you can. I think her intentions are ultimately for the good, even if they might not be what everyone wants. That's just my thinking so far. The Forsaken, obviously not great. And I don't always know about, like, fully understand what's going on, and that's why rereading those kinds of chapters is helpful to me. But one thing that is interesting is that Alana, a green Aes Sedai who bonded Rand without his permission, she's been, like, in the back of his head kind of bothering him for a while, and after bonding these other 3 women in his life, she is now unconscious and she's unwell, like, she's sick, and they're not sure what they can do for her. And I find that intriguing, I guess. Like, I don't really fully understand what that means, but it follows right after Rand is bonded with 3 other women, and I just want to know what's going on there. I find that interesting. Chapter 14 is very interesting. I think another reread of that one would be good. It's an intro to Tuan, is how I'm going to say her name. She is a very important Seanchan character. That culture is a fascinating one to me, and that's partly why a reread of that chapter would benefit me, because you see a lot of their culture from their POV, not just from, like, Egwene being captured and being a slave to them. And I think it's important because then she and Matt meet. But I get the sense that their meeting is important. And I kind of like her character, and how Matt sees her and is kind of intimidated by her is interesting and different than all the other women he's interacted with. And then finally, at chapter 15, we get some Matt chapters starting. I've missed him a lot, and I care a lot about his character, and I'm so sad that he's still stuck where he is. And please forgive my potential butchering of this. Is it Ibu Dar? Is that how you pronounce the place that he's in? Anyway, the queen, Tylin, is that her name? Gosh, yes. She is being the worst. I am very interested to see how the adaptation will handle Matt's relationship with her. He is not being treated fairly and consensually with this woman, and because he is a man, I don't think it's seen the same way or written the same way, to be honest. It's still a problem, and I think Robert Jordan is sort of making that point, but where the show has given some progressiveness to characters in a way that I find important, and like, just being more outright than Robert Jordan could be, I think it could be an interesting exploration, given that so many times Matt is seen as this playboy and, like, this like, jerk, and he's actually a very good man. He's a bit of a tease, and he's definitely a flirt, but it's all on equal footing for him. And there comes a point that's really important for his character where Tuan says that men have been taking the slaves for less than appropriate purposes, and he comments on like who would ever want to be with a woman who is on a leash. Like, who would ever want to do that? What man would want to do that? And whatever you do in the privacy of your own life is obviously up to you. Not so much a judgment of that. It's a judgment of people who control and enslave other people, and Matt understands how that feels. Like, he is sort of a pet to this queen, and if he was a woman, we would be worried about him. But I've seen commentary on it, and I think it's important, but I'm interested to see how it will be resolved in the book, and how certain characters who were not very kind to him about it could maybe not so much behave differently in the show. I think we can stay true to their characters, but maybe treat it with a little bit more care, in that we point out that, like, women need to be there for men in their lives who are going through this just as much as men need to be there for women who are going through this. And I just think it's important. Anyway, I care a lot about Matt, and I hate to see him go through that. The first intro to Matt, a lot of it is the Seanchan being in Ibudar. Is that right? I don't know. And him going through the city. He is injured after events in, I don't think the last book, but the book before that. And he has sort of been left behind by Nynaeve, Elaine, and Aviendha. And he has Tom with him. He has some of his men with him, but he has lost men. He's injured, and he's recovering, and he's kind of powerless because of the queen. And it's kind of rough to see him in that place. And then he's introduced to some higher-ups of the Seanchan, and even in meeting Tuan for the first time, she offers to purchase him. And Tylin, like, I don't know if she's embarrassed or what it is, but she's like, no, like, he's a free man. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm not a free man. But, like, legally speaking, she doesn't own him. She just abuses any kind of relationship she has with him. And it's just kind of interesting, that perspective that Tuan immediately is like, I'd purchase him. Like, that culture of just being like, well, he could be useful to me, you know? Like, how slavery tends to run. And I want to know if her viewpoints are going to change. And it's funny because later on in chapter, 18, Tuan offers to buy Matt's spear from him. And he comments that he paid a heavy price for it. That, like, and he, like, touches the mark around his neck from his near-death experience. And it's just interesting that she sees the world and the people in the world as, like, things to buy and to make useful. In chapter 16, Matt runs into the golem. And it is interesting to see how the medallion works against him. And he is saved by a man who stumbles upon him, and the golem doesn't want to get caught, so he runs away. And then for the rest of Matt's time, he is trying to smuggle out money and clothing and stuff to leave eventually, but he has to do it incrementally so that he doesn't get caught by Tylin and kept there forever ultimately. He returns to, I think it's the Wandering Woman, I think that's the inn. He returns to that inn. The innkeeper helps him stash stuff, and she also is hiding women who can channel, particularly an Aes Sedai, and who was at sort of the palace when the Seanchan took over, and he is sort of tasked with saving 3 women from becoming slaves. The woman who has never been enslaved, and 2 other women who are currently captured, who haven't quite switched the mentality over into being these pets to the Seanchan. So Matt now has the task of helping 3 women escape the city without being caught as channelers. And then finally in chapter 20, we get the perspective of, I'm going to say her name is Bethaman, but she trains, so she's a Soldam who's a very notable trainer of the slaves. But she has committed treason. So back in book 2, when Egwene was enslaved, she stumbled upon the two women who had been soldam, who had been slavers and controlling Egwene and others. She comes in and sees that they have the leashes on them, and the soldam aren't supposed to be able to be controlled by the leash, because that would mean that they are also able to channel and that they can also be controlled. And it sort of destroys the whole theory of their slaving system. So she realizes she can channel, and knowing this and knowing that things are kind of a lie is like a heavy weight on her. And also, but she still like feels like that's how things should work. And then by the end of her chapter, she finds out that Sarath, her like higher up, is being investigated because Sarath helped her, and helped these women escape so that they wouldn't be found out as able to channel as soldam, because that would immediately just make them into slaves if that were true. And I know my explanation of it gets kind of tricky, but if you've read it, you probably remember what happened. I think it was interesting that Egwene was mentioned, and that they used her new name, and I find it very disturbing that they give the slaves a different name. It's just gross and inhumane, and I just find it uncomfortable. Like, Matt speaks with an Aes Sedai, uses her name, and she has a very particular accent, and then you go in with this trainer, and she's speaking with the same Aes Sedai, and you can tell they have the same accent, and she's calling her a different name and making her behave like a trained pet, and it's gross, and I really do not like it. I'm sort of interested to see if that whole culture falls apart or not. We'll see how that goes, and what happens with all of them. I have been enjoying my read so far, and I've read bigger chunks, so it's been a little bit more interesting. Right now I really care a lot about Matt, and I want him to escape because he's kind of been stuck there for a while, and all because he was helping out and got left behind and got dismissed for the things he's been through, and I hate that. So I'm interested to see where his character goes. When I'm done, I will be making a third part to this Book 9 video. I'd appreciate any comments, any thoughts you have. You guys are chill to join me on this Wheel of Time journey. I've really appreciated all your support. It's been awesome to have conversations with all of you, and I'm excited to keep going in this read. So thanks for watching, and thank you for your support, and I'll see you later. Bye.